Hey, what is up guys, I'm GHz here, and this is the new MacBook. Not MacBook Pro, not MacBook Air, just the new MacBook. And it is insanely thin. So like literally too thin for normal batteries, too thin for any ports, too thin for a normal trackpad, even too thin for a backlight for the Apple logo. I took a closer look at this freakishly thin new laptop today, and these are my impressions. So right off the bat, it's the thinnest and lightest laptop I've ever seen. Weighs in at 2 pounds, which is actually a full pound lighter than the 13-inch MacBook Air. And yeah, it's just 13 millimeters thin at its thickest point, which is, again, ridiculous. You pick it up and you wave it around and it's kind of hard to believe there's an entire machine in there. Now, you can't go this thin in a laptop without making some sacrifices. And Apple has kind of tried to turn these sacrifices into features, at least for some of them. So first of all, it's too thin for normal rectangular battery cells, so they've used contoured battery cells, which are essentially stacked sheets of battery to fill out the space. That makes sense. Next, it's too thin for the backlit Apple logo that you see in the rest of Apple's laptops. So you get a reflective one with no backlight that we already have on, the iPhones and the iPads already. So kind of a bummer for some people, but that also makes sense. Now this MacBook is also too thin for any sort of depth in the keyboard. So Apple keyboards, they didn't really have much travel to begin with, but this new MacBook keyboard has a new double-sided key switch called butterfly switches, which are supposed to help with the typing experience and make keystrokes feel more even when pressing on the edges of the keys. I didn't notice much of a difference in my brief use, but that's something I'll have to use more. But either way you look at it, these are really thin keys with very low travel. So this MacBook is also too thin for ports. Seriously, it's rocking only a single USB-C port on one side and an audio jack on the other. So through this USB-C port, you do both power and all your data, so charging, and if you want to do both at the same time, you'll have to use some sort of an adapter. In fact, you'll probably need multiple adapters. There's no way around this one. This is the biggest inconvenience of the new MacBook, and if you ever need to plug in even so much as a mouse or a flashcard reader, let alone a display or anything bigger, it turns this simple, elegant machine into like an octopus with adapters for arms. And the other thing this laptop is too thin for is a normal moving trackpad. So there's literally not enough room to have a trackpad that can mechanically click. So Apple has a large glass surface where the trackpad normally is, and then underneath it they have a vibration motor, kind of like the one you have in your phone. And it's a pressure sensitive surface, so when you press a bit harder on it, it clicks, or at least it feels like it does. It feels exactly like a mechanical click from a normal MacBook trackpad, and it actually fooled me into thinking it was actually moving, but it's not. If you turn off the effect, it's just like pressing down on a metal sheet, so you don't feel anything move. Kind of like a magic trick. So with this pressure sensitivity, you also get something called force touch. So it's sort of like a third click action. You have regular clicks, then right clicks, and then force touch. So force touch is sort of like a more info button. You press down hard on like a piece of text to expand and get a dictionary definition, or where you can force touch on an address to get an Apple Maps listing, etc. So you get the idea. You can also use it to fast forward through a video in QuickTime, so the harder you press, the faster you scrub, which is a neat little demo. You can press down and it'll click multiple times, even though it's clearly not moving. Overall, I was pretty impressed with how well this trackpad worked, and Apple's been doing trackpads really well for years now, so you could say it's a risky move for them to change it, but it's really impressive. Now, the one thing this laptop was not too thin for was pixels. They packed a high-resolution display into this guy, and it looks really good. So good, in fact, that this guy thought it was a touchscreen for some reason. They say it's a Retina display, and it comes in at 2304 by 1440 pixels on a 12-inch panel. It's a bit of an odd resolution, but I can promise you it looks really sharp, really bright, very vivid. Colors were fantastic. Viewing angles are great. It's an awesome display. I don't even need to spend more time with it to be able to tell you that. So all in all, this is clearly Apple's sexiest laptop ever, no doubt, but mostly because of just how thin and light and ultra portable it is. In fact, it reminds me of that whole Ultrabook category. It's rocking an Intel Core M dual-core processor. Clearly, it is not a powerful machine at all. You don't expect to edit videos or photos on this thing. Don't expect any graphic design. It's really more of a glorified tablet connected to a keyboard sort of feel. And that's really what the internals are, actually. A whole ton of battery, and then the computer parts itself can fit in the palm of your hand. It's fanless, so there are no moving parts, and it's silent. And of course, with no upgradability and the starting price at $12.99, who will like this? So it's an awesome note-taking machine. You know, if the keyboard holds up, students will like it. It's supposed to have an 8 to 10 hour battery life with the typical web browsing and, like I said, very lightweight tasks that it's designed to do. So it's really just for everyday people looking to kick back and have a super thin laptop to do whatever. And I guess that's Apple's target demographic in a nutshell. There are plenty of other things I could complain about, like it's only a 480p webcam on the front. Like really? Not even 720p? And for $15.99 of an upgrade price, you still get half a terabyte of storage and 8 gigs of RAM, and it's still dual core. So you know people are going to talk about that. But people won't be buying this laptop for the power. They'll buy it for how pretty it looks, and then they'll deal with all the adapters and sacrifices you made to get there. So if you're thinking about it, keep in mind, well, number one, that the full review and comparisons with other machines is in the works. And number two, this is a first-gen product, so keep the second-gen in mind, because you know Apple already has. Thanks for watching this first hands-on and impressions video, and I'll talk to you guys in the next one. Peace.